cold, I have to stay over here. So we have to keep our distance today.
We got to stay away.
So I'm blown away and privileged and honored, Carrie. Thank you for having us, because this is a tremendous honor and burden, right? Because we're the two standing between you and happy hour, right? and so many great acts, so many great perspectives, people that I met in the last 24 hours. You wouldn't know this because I'm a quiet back of the room, keep to myself, but thank you. I appreciate and love you guys already, because I could tell that what everyone had in common was love, right? Luke, right off the bat, that circle with love at the center, and that's what ties us together. So I'm going to say a couple things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Angie. So Luke cast the vision this morning, and he cast the energy, and we felt it. And then everyone's story that we saw today explained how culture plays into this formula. And so we're going to wrap it up with this concept of knowledge, because Luke is absolutely correct. You can't just show up with knowledge. You have to show up, and the knowledge makes the lifting lighter, right? Because if we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the insight, if we don't have mentors, if we don't have coaches, if we don't take classes, if we don't read, we're going to squander all that precious energy, right? So thank you. That was a great way to start. And anything that you heard, even this panel, everything else, words, topics, things that resonate with you.
I'm feeling all the feels right now. I ugly cried in the back after Corey's talk.
Yeah.
I literally have felt all the energy that you've all brought today. And the words connection, a basic human need that we all have, rhythm, human flourishing, kindness, joy, ego, just a lot of the things that we're dealing with on the daily in our work. And who said if you hear it once?
Corey,
yeah.
You said it earlier. The message, right?
You keep hearing it. It's for you. And it's just that we're all on the same page. And I feel like we're all synergistic today. And we're all going to take something, and we're going to wrap it up with some practical ways that you can put it to use. Yeah,
so we take science, we take research, and we boil down those experiences, and we help people understand how to do the things people are talking about. Because we can't just do it on our own. It's like being a new manager, right? How many times do they just give you the keys to the new office and say, have fun, good luck, right? You don't have the skills. You don't have the foundation, right? And one word of warning, just mimicking what you hear today will not solve your culture challenge. It requires you to pull up your sleeves and put the work in. The work actually isn't that difficult, but it's the long game we're playing. So hopefully what we share with you here will help inform you on how you set your path forward for your family, for your friends, and for your organization. Let's see if this thing's working. There we go.
So I'm going to start off a little bit about our story. You got our bio, so we don't need to talk about that. But what is unique is that we started our business, Black River Performance Management, in 2017. And our business started just flourishing. And in the last 2 years, 2 years ago, I left working in higher education because I get to transform lives every day. And so I'm full-time consulting and coaching and developing and facilitating. Twin Falls is one of the places that we get to travel to often. We currently live in Pocatello, but we are chamber members here in Twin Falls. Woo! Yes. And in fact, we're here because of the Twin Falls Chamber, because we helped them with some of their leadership curriculum for their leadership program, and which is how we met Senate, and which is how we met Carrie, and which is how we've met many of you, and many of you that we've worked in your organizations to help you build higher performing teams, create better culture, get to know your people, team building, strategic planning, all the things that we get to do. We're not heading to Everest this week, but we are heading to Coeur d'Alene, and we're heading to Idaho Falls, and we do have a van that we take down by the river, so we do a little bit of motivational stuff too. And we're all over Idaho, and we love what we get to do because we get to meet people like you all over the state, and we get to find out what's making your businesses thrive, what some of your challenges are, and it's just so incredibly powerful. I literally have chills right now because I'm thinking of the people that I met today that made me cry, that made me laugh, and I feel really connected to people who want to grow. And so I'm excited to share with you today.
So Angie's our secret weapon for our business because she's darling and charming and super smart and has tons of charisma. Then there's me, on the other hand. I end up working a lot more behind the scenes with re-engineering organizations, turning them around, helping you hit those aspirational goals you have for your culture, for your systems, for all those pieces that are part of your system. So one of the things that I think we should start with is our why, or our vision for our company, since this came up earlier today. So it's, from my point of view, it's uncanny, the language and the sequencing that occurs in our slide deck, because we had no idea what anyone else was going to talk about. Mm-hmm. So we believe that work should fuel the human spirit and not drain it. Would you agree with us there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay.
Can you say it again, or stand on your chair and say it? What do you think we mean by that, though? We want an interactive audience today, too. It should energize you. Give you purpose. What else?
Love what you do.
Love what you do. What else? Make you happy.
Be in a flow state.
Be in flow. Inspire. Bring you joy. Everything. You guys, I'm feeling it.
Make you want to keep doing it.
Yeah, make you want to keep going, fueling you, driving you to the point where you don't even have to, it doesn't feel like work, because it's not work when you're having fun and you're meeting awesome people and you're changing lives. So we all know we know what we want, but what does it take to make an immovable culture? What kinds of things?
Core values.
Core values? What else? Consistency? Yes, we're going to talk about that. What else? Work.
Yeah.
It's
showing up,
getting dirty, right? It takes work. Passion. Hard decisions.
Dedication over here.
Dedication. What was that? Spirit.
Awesome.
So what gets in the way?
Birthdays. Ego.
Ego. Birthdays. Often hear people. Interpersonal life. Your mind. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I love how it was acknowledged earlier that we can't just separate our home life from our work life, right? It's not clean like that, is it? It flows over. The crap we dealt with last night with our significant other might follow us into the office the next day, right? So our experience in organizations is complicated. And one of the things I push back about these sorts of events is that we do a really good job of making it seem really easy. And it's not that it's really hard, but it takes dedication, as I mentioned earlier, right? And so it's a part of the process, and it sounds like from that panel that was up here, they were all in it together with their team, and that's a great place to start.
Can I add to that really quick? As
Yep.
far as the energy goes, emotions are contagious. Today you've been infected with some positive energy, an energy that you can take, that lit your fire, that can take you so you can light up somebody else. I even heard the talking about fire and lighting other people's fire, also keeping other people's candle lit, and being a candle cradler when you know other people are trying to blow out their flame. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention too, that emotion contagion is a real thing. Whether it's positive or negative, we have to be aware of our energy that we bring.
Absolutely. So what is culture? Well, culture is that marshmallowy goodness that holds those Rice Krispie treats together, right? Culture is the glue. It's the thing that holds our system together that could be very negative and toxic, right? or it can be very powerful, positive, and beautiful, right? But it exists nonetheless.
Yeah, we're going to have culture either way. Culture happens either by design or default. I heard a few on the panel talking about intentionality. So when we're thinking about culture, we need to be thinking about your intentions around culture. And there's been a lot of great questions today as it relates to how do I build a great culture? How do I sustain it? How do I change? All these things. So you're thinking about what does it take to create a great culture? Because it doesn't happen. Culture happens, but creating a good one takes a lot of intentionality and a lot of thought and a lot of strategy and a lot of mentoring and a lot of mess ups, right? We have to learn along the way that we have to continue to grow and learn as the organization itself grows.
So we're about to move forward with some models, frameworks, strategies. And so anything you see on the screen, take a picture of, write it in your book. We're going to throw you about 3 semesters worth of work in the next, 60 minutes. All right? And so there's a lot of information that's going to come out now. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at what we consider the pillars of culture. And these 4 things are central to nurturing and cultivating your culture. And the opposite of them relates to a detrimental, damaging, negative, toxic culture. All right? So I'll walk you through each of them. So here's our 4 pillars. Nothing fancy. Consistency. What do we mean by consistency? Consistency means whether you're a leader or an employee showing up in the same way over time. It doesn't mean not be emotional. I heard it earlier. I was behind the screen, so I didn't see who said it. Wearing the emotions on the sleeve. Wear them on your sleeve consistently, so the people around you know how you're going to react. They won't fear your reactions. Creates trust. Exactly. Accountability, it was mentioned earlier. It is the most difficult thing to do as a leader or a manager. We are not good with confrontation, and this is the biggest issue plaguing organizations we work with. We'll talk about that in more detail. Connection. Connection is one of the basic human needs. Prior to COVID, what was the number one, what was the pandemic? I guess that's what number 1 means, right? In terms of the pandemic. What was the pandemic prior to COVID? Any idea? Loneliness. In fact, we know that loneliness is far more detrimental to your health than smoking and what else? Drinking, drugs combined.
Obesity, yeah.
So that's an important part of this. And the last one is safety. And what do we mean by safety? Well, typically, if you work in a manufacturing facility, we think of PPE, we think of safety goggles, we think of gloves, lockout, tagout procedures, ladder safety. But that's not what we're referring to. We've gotten really good at addressing the physical safety element in organizations.
Because people had to die first.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what it took, right?
Yeah.
But what is one of the biggest contributors to why we're seeing this exit in the workforce, the shuffle, is a lack of psychological safety. And what that means is that, am I nurturing a space for my employees to feel valued? To feel like it's okay for them to dissent and discuss my perspectives or our perspectives without retaliation, right? How many times do we give way to the voice, even though they say, here are our values, but they don't live them because it's not a safe environment? It's probably the biggest issue right now with organizations. And it's mainly because it's complicated. We are so hierarchical that we have people in all different positions that might be good at building widgets, but when they were promoted to the leader role, they didn't have the skill set or the knowledge or the resources. And so there's a lot of space in the organization for ego to get in the way and the safety element to break down. So these are our 4 pillars of culture. Now, we have 4 nutriments. And what are nutriments? They're like the fertilizer. These are the things that will bring your culture forward. And I know there's only 3 on the screen.
You haven't even gotten
I'll
to
tell
the
you the
3.
4th at the end. Oh, the revenue in there, I gave it away. Meaningful work, joy, and compassion. Those things have to be present as it relates to the pillars. And that's what I heard in this panel here, is that that's what they've been cultivating in their organization. And so we need those pieces, because it's the lack of this, and this that's resulted in the great resignation, the great reshuffle. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this in 4 different perspectives, because if we just came here to talk to you as leaders, we'd be missing many different aspects of your life. Some of us are leaders by job design. Some of us are leaders in our family. Some of us are followers. Some of us have to follow at times. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you different perspectives as it relates to these 4 pillars. All right? And we do want you to ask questions if you have questions. But let's get started. Anne, do you want to go on the first one?
Yeah, and I think you're going to find that a lot of the things you heard today are going to show up here, and which is great, because it's just reaffirming the things that you need to hear and take notes on. So the first one is consistency. When we're talking about self, I'm talking about self-leadership. Great leaders lead themselves well. They understand themselves, and in the pillar, how is your consistency? Do you show up when you say you're going to show up? Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you do the things you want to do even when you don't feel like it? Just like that energy that he said, leaving it on the table. Are you doing things you don't feel like doing? Emotions are there to keep us alive, but they're not facts. Feelings aren't facts. We don't always feel motivated or feel like doing the things. Sometimes we just got to act and do things, and then that will create the emotion. Second one is accountability. I heard people speaking on that in the panel too. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, how can we expect to hold other people accountable? Like right now, I think about how do you, if you're not holding yourself accountable, or how are you checking in with yourself at night? Did you live up to your core values, if you know what they are? Are you rating yourself? Maybe tomorrow I can do just a little bit better. Maybe I wasn't so great. Maybe one of your core values is authenticity. I heard today that's one of my core values. I don't think I was very authentic with that person. Maybe I said I wanted to go to dinner when I really didn't. Maybe I could check in and be like, probably an 8. You could probably do a little bit better tomorrow. No judgment on myself, but also check in the end of the evening and find out, how did I live up to my core values today? And whatever I did, if I did something that doesn't line up with my core values or my beliefs, I can say, hey, I blew up, my emotions hijacked me today, and there's no excuse for how I acted today. Just own your stuff.
I'll just add that, admitting your mistakes, right? So we hold other people to this high standard, right? What if we're not holding ourselves to that same standard to start with? It starts here. And you don't need to publicly admit your mistakes. You just reflect upon it, as Angie mentioned. But it starts here before we could hold others to that level.
I will also mention that whenever you see something in other people that you don't like, it's generally something mirroring back at you that you don't like about yourself. Your triggers are not you. Your triggers are something that you need to work on. It's not for them to work on. Whenever you're triggered, that's an area of self-growth for you. Safety. So how's your self-talk? So even when you do mess up, are you talking to yourself like you would talk to a coworker or to a friend? Or are you calling yourself a dumbass and you can't even do this? If you're talking to yourself in that way, if you disrespect yourself, you're giving other people room to disrespect you. You need to talk to yourself in a way that you can be proud of. Or even if you need to think about yourself as a little child, would you talk to yourself like that? Sometimes I have to give myself some self-compassion and some self-love. It's okay to mess up. We're human beings. And that's part of that safety, is just giving yourself that space and some self-compassion. Self-care looks different for everybody. You got to find out what it is that fuels your spirit as it relates to your self-care. Whether that's a bubble bath or a bike ride or a workshop, or learning, whatever it is that fills your cup, that oxygen coming down, you only have 30 seconds before you pass out, so you better suck it up because it's coming and you got to take care of yourself. All right, how about your connection? Connection is a basic human need, so how we connect with others is going to depend a lot on our mindset. Who here's heard of a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Okay, good. So I know we all like to think that we have a growth mindset, but I guarantee there's an area of your life where you have a fixed mindset. You're stuck in a belief. I mean, we've all had them, so you have to challenge those beliefs and think, is this belief working for me? And be willing to admit that you might be able to think again and decide that there's something else. There might be another way to reframe that. There might be another way to look at that. You might not be the expert. There might be somebody out there that you can learn from. And then you're going to go on to...
Did you...
Yeah, well, I didn't see what the last one was there.
Self-care, self-talk.
Self-talk, go ahead.
So self and others, what does this refer to? This refers to our relationship with people around you, us, not necessarily people of power, taking the rank out of it, but how are we interacting along those 4 pillars with those other people in our life, whether that's in the workplace or our home life or something in between. So we get back to consistency, right? Be reliable. Be a rock, right? Your coworkers, if you want to nurture trust, consistency is huge, and being that rock for the people you work with is extremely important. The other thing is demonstrating organizational citizenship behaviors. What that means is that you actually work in an environment where you put the needs of others before your own. So that could mean advocacy, that could be speaking up for other people in different ways, that can mean creating space for maybe introverts to speak during staff meetings, because we know like the extroverts in this room like to dominate those meetings, right? And so that is a part of advocating for people so you have their back. So accountability, own your work, mistakes included. So, I know some of this sounds the same as the self paradigm, but sometimes we might do something at home that we don't do in the workplace, or vice versa. And so these behaviors need to follow us through. We've talked about integrity earlier today. That's what integrity is. It's integrity through this 4-pillar process so that you can contribute and be a positive attribute to the organizations. This next one is huge. Ask questions when you need to. Ego gets in the way over and over again. We've all been a new employee. We've all been afraid to ask questions, haven't we? Isn't our internal drive what we do when we start a position? We want to make the person that hired us proud. That we want to be providing for our friends and family. That we actually do good work. But there's this conflict in organizational settings, especially, that we are afraid to ask questions. And then eventually we might sweep those problems under the rug as opposed to getting help. And the irony here is that we've all been in that exact same position before, and we'd be more than happy to help. So safety, be friendly and kind, make someone's day. This is one of my favorite things. If you've ever watched the video of Fish Philosophy or read the book, Fish Philosophy, Make Someone's Day. It's so powerful. It's about choosing your attitude. You could walk in being grumpy and it's going to affect everyone. But you also have the same discretion over what's going on here to bring positivity and energy into that workplace. So make someone's day. And then advocate for others, right? Psychological safety requires a team commitment. I love that question earlier about culture. How do you cultivate culture if you're not the leader? It's a part of the team process. We all play a role in it. And we all erode it at times, or we all contribute to it. How are we going to do this for others?
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we're thinking about new employees, ask questions when you need to. What do you think that emotion is that they're facing that we've been talking about today? Fear.
Fear, exactly.
fear of failure, fear of letting you down,
Yep.
fear of not being enough. They all have it. So you're going to have to be the one to cultivate as the leader and give them that safe environment and that space, and take a deep breath and create a space and some grace for people to make mistakes, to ask questions, for you to share some of the dumb things you did along the way. Because when you share the dumb things you did and the mistakes you made, they are like, wow. They can relate to you and they can connect to you and they can understand that progress is what you're looking for, not perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. It's getting better every day.
So this bottom connection, being open to other people's differences. I heard this a couple times today about core values and fit. I think it's important to recognize and the importance of fun in the organization, and I'm the first to admit, I want to be in that fun organization. But we profile people by their personalities, by their traits, by their motives, behaviors, all sorts of things we can profile people. The dark side that are going to lead them to derail an organization, all sorts of things. But what we know is that not everyone has that same interest of fun as you do. And that's important to understand as you connect with others, because you might need to meet them part way. Or you might have to ask some more difficult questions during an interview, because all they're trying to do is mirror your enthusiasm for the organization, because what's their goal in the end? To get the job, right?
To sell themselves.
Yeah, sell themselves. So there's an important element there that we need to connect with others, and the best way we connect with others is to leave our post a little bit and meet them part way. And then investing in relationship goes right with that. So, Angie, you want to do leader and others?
Yeah, and leaders lead others, whether that's in the home or the church or the workplace. But being consistent and doing what you say you're going to do is so important. It doesn't matter if you plaster your core values all over the walls and everybody can read them. If you're not living them and you're not doing it, everybody's watching. So you get to be the one who models the behavior you'd like to see. We all know we hire for skills and fire for behavior. Don't play favorites. I heard somebody talking on the panel about that. While we can treat people a little differently based on their needs, we need to make sure that we're consistent and we're treating people equitable and fairly, so that you're not, letting people get away with something and then this person, the worst behavior you accept, that's the new norm.
And everyone's watching, whether you know that or not.
Mm-hmm. Accountability. We talked about this as well. As a new leader, especially if you're a new manager, maybe you were the best person at doing the job that you do, and all of a sudden you're in charge of 25 people. Good luck. Have fun. This accountability piece, if you don't get some skills in this area and build your skills on holding people accountable, you're doomed to fail, because the culture is going to fall apart. It's going to go in a direction you don't want it to go, because you can't explain what your needs are, how they're not meeting the needs, how they're not aligning. You have to have alignment conversations. Nobody knows how to do this. Just all these skills are buildable. That's the beauty of it. Like, I didn't know how to do this. I'm a native Idahoan, born from a 16-year-old mom. Like, literally, I didn't have these skills. They're all learnable, but we can give them to the people that work for us, and it's our job when we lead others. Let's see. Safety. So emotional intelligence has been brought up quite a bit today. If you Google what are the top 10 skills needed in the workplace at any time, past 5 years, emotional intelligence is 6, 7. What does that mean? So my history in emotional intelligence is that I got to work in the operating room and work with really smart surgeons, do lots of cool surgeries, and what I learned is how they worked impacted the entire team. Some surgeons would come in and degrade the teams, throw instruments, throw tantrums, literally, and I would watch what would happen to the room. And then I'd see some surgeons come in and lead the room differently. And what I do know is that EQ and IQ are not the same. IQ is your smarts, EQ is how you handle your emotions. We actually suck at it. And our self-awareness is one of the elements. And we're less self-aware than we believe or think we are. We think we're better looking, we think we're smarter, we think we're better at our jobs. Actually, the research says 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware if you do a 360-degree survey on them and then survey all the people around them. Very rarely do they match up their perception of themselves to the perception of what other people would rate them on those things. So if we can just admit right now we're not all unicorns, that we could use some work in the area of self-awareness, that if we can improve our emotions and how we handle those, and I don't mean get rid of them, because you're human, but understanding how they show up, what your triggers are, and how you're going to behave and how you want to behave and show up as your best self so that you can lead more effectively and have a safe environment for your people, you're gonna skyrocket. If you build these skills, your career is going to go, because you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you have to understand people, and you have to understand the social situations, social awareness, self-awareness, motivation.
So you've mentioned emotions a couple times, and actually we didn't get into emotions earlier today much at all. And so on average, how many emotions do people identify with? Ange?
According to new research from Brené Brown, it's 3: happy, sad, and pissed off. That's the 3 emotions that people know. And there's hundreds, but her new research shows 86 emotions and experiences that people have, and language matters. And how we describe those things matters. So honing in on your language, increasing your emotional vocabulary, understanding the difference between anger, disgust,
I just want to reinforce that point, because if we don't know what the emotion is that we're experiencing, right? Language matters. We don't know what it is. We don't know how to identify it. And then we don't know how to work through it. And we don't know how it's impacting us in other areas. So Brené Brown's latest book, Atlas of the Heart, I recommend to everyone, because she goes through over 70 different emotions in there. And I'm so happy that finally someone sat down and wrote this out, because that is one of the big challenges. Coming from the world of academics to the world of practice, when JJ says the word motivation and I say the word motivation, we're not talking the same language. We have different perspectives on that. So the more we could refine these terms and these concepts, the better we're going to be at connecting with each other. And that is so central to a culture. You know, your practices, your language, your jargon, all those things that make up a culture.
I wanted to add on the safety piece, leading others. Rob brought up bringing other people to the table and bringing them in the conversation. If any of you have done a DISC, if you're a D or an I, you need to zip it a little bit and use these twice as much as this. Because you got 2 ears, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and it's so you can listen twice as much as you speak. Because listening is an underutilized skill. And you can't bring an open climate for dialogue if you can't be quiet, or if you have to fill the airspace. The beauty is in the space. You see that quietness? It makes people uncomfortable. But that's where conversations come in. And you have to give it, and you have to call people out and say, I need to hear what you have to say at our meeting. Don't call them out, those shy ones, those introverts. Don't call them out in the meeting, but let them know, I want to hear from you. I'd like you to speak on such and such on Wednesday, because I know your thoughts are valuable. But don't put those guys on the spot right then. Let them know ahead of time. Because some people want to be in the shiny lights, and other people would rather just kind of be in the background, right, and hiding. So you have to open that conversation for dialogue as the leader. You're responsible for it. Connection. Everybody has individual needs. How many of you in here have kids? Almost everybody, right? You can't treat this kid, you can treat them fairly and equitably, but if you notice, they all have different needs. It's the same place in the workplace. Some people want to be acknowledged for their good work, and they want to have you clapping, or they want an award. Some people want a half day off. Some people want a gift card to Starbucks. Like, some people like gifts, love language, all the things. Get to know your people. What would make you feel valued? Because if you use a one-size-all approach to fit your whole team or your kids, you treat them all exactly the same, you're going to find you don't connect with them as well. But you got to treat them equitably. And everybody on your team should know those things about each other. That's the whole team building part. Like, oh, we know he doesn't like public accolades, right? Rob doesn't want you to clap for him on stage for something. That's not in his behavior.
Rob kind of doesn't even want to be here right now. Right?
But he does it because he loves it. But later he'll be unenergized and just like, I need to go die in my room, and I'll be like ready to party. So connect. So recognize also the relatedness. So relatedness is one of the key pieces of motivation, and it's another word for connectedness, and we're gonna talk about that when we bring out our motivation model, and Rob is gonna get into it. But everybody's level of relatedness is different. So let's just say, for example, I may need a high level of relatedness at work or connection at work because I'm an extrovert. Or maybe something's going on at my home life that I don't have a lot of connection at home. Maybe I've got some really traumatic things going on, or my relationship's not doing well, so I may need more relatedness at work at this time than I do at this time. Because we're dynamic and we're always moving, we have to keep in mind that the relatedness is always moving too. Some people may need more than others. And at different times, you'll need more than other times because we have those seasons of life and life quakes that happen.
All right, so this last one is the self and the leader. So we all know that we need to advocate for ourselves, right? But sometimes we don't. Actually, I think many times we don't, right? We failed the self-care test earlier, so I suspect many of us are afraid to advocate for ourselves. Your supervisor, your leader can't read your mind. They don't know what you need right now versus the last time you had that conversation. So there's a process called managing up. So it's managing your supervisor. And that question earlier about how do you change culture when you're not in charge, you get behind the driver's seat and you take the steering wheel. So if I have regular one-on-ones with Corey, and Corey's my boss, and he doesn't bring in necessarily an agenda, he just wants to touch base with me, it's my opportunity to write an agenda and to identify those things that I want to discuss, the things that I need assistance with, the things I want to plant in front of him to consider so that in 2 weeks when we meet again, it's marinated in there and he's got some ideas. I have that responsibility. And for many of us that are conflict averse, just like think about having difficult conversations, use that agenda to commit yourself to the notes that you want to have for that conversation, to advocate for yourself, to ask for help. Because you know how it is. You go in, you don't have it written down. You start having an emotional event or something happens going in there, or like you're so subject to all the variables in the environment that you might not, and you typically don't have that difficult conversation or advocate for yourself or ask what you need. I have clients, I call it the bat phone. Angie's much more of a coach, and I'm much more of a troubleshooter with executives. So they'll text me at night saying, here's my agenda for this difficult conversation, can you give me feedback? Or they'll reach out to me saying, I'm not sure how to resolve this problem, I have these difficult personalities, where do I go with this? And so I'll walk them through that, I'll handhold them. But it's because it's a difficult process. We're not good at confrontation. Who here was raised to be avoided? I know in my house we didn't have difficult conversations. And I know when we profile people and their personalities that 3/4 of people have a difficult time with conflict and confrontation. So that means the majority of your people in your work environment aren't ready to step up. So you need to meet them part way, or you need to give them some tools so they could have those difficult experiences. All right, let's jump into this. We'll blow through this real quick. We have so much more stuff to share. Consistency, perform according to expectations, emotional regulation, that emotional intelligence, monitoring yourself, right? You're there to impress that person, not single yourself out. So you have control over a lot of that. Dependable and reliable, own your mistakes. Your supervisor, the majority of supervisors and leaders I know are compassionate people. They might not be good at their job as a leader or a supervisor, but it doesn't mean they don't have a huge heart and they don't want to help and support you. It just means that they might not have the framework or the tools to be a better, more impactful leader. Because you're just not born an impactful leader. It's developed over time. Charisma does not equal leadership. Because in the end, charisma will give away and those leadership skills will be needed. All right, what else is on here? So hard to see the bright light.
Safety.
Safety. Only share what is yours to share. How many times has someone confided in you? And then it wasn't yours to pass on to someone else. We have a hard time with that. It's funny. We're not good with confrontation, but we're pretty good at stabbing people in the back. Role model those psychological safety behaviors, right? So you can be the person that can impart on your supervisor those things. Also, I'll add that if you have a strong culture, a strong, open, positive culture, you as a leader should be cultivating the opportunity for your person to give you some difficult feedback. It's just not me passing it on to JJ that I have feedback for him. It's him to pass it on to me. You know, when you mentioned this in the staff meeting, it really divided us, or it actually hurt my feelings, stuff like that. Hey, with our culture being strong, I could roll with that. I know he's vested and interested in my success, this organization's success, and vice versa. It's based on love and respect. And that's what we try to bring to every organization we're a part of.
I want to add one more thing to
this.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen before is leaders, managers, talking poorly about their staff to other people, but not to the person that needs to hear it. And so that's toxic. That is not being a leader. And sometimes I've been in the position where I've even had to say to the leader, have you talked with them about it? Maybe that's the person you should be talking to. That's self-leadership. When you're leading up, when you're letting that leader know, you know what, I think they could probably be they're probably the one that needs to hear this first. And instead of you talking about them, why don't you talk to them? And if you'd like me to help you solve it, I'll come in on it, but I don't know what this is producing. When you have a good culture, everybody else will step up to help that leader. Yeah. And that's part of self-leadership. And sometimes it's difficult to say to a leader, your behavior is not helping the situation. And I've been there. I've been there with surgeons. And I've been in situations where I was not at a level where I'm supposed to be talking, but it's also like my core values. Like this person, talk to this person, don't talk about them. They can't fix a problem they don't know about, right? And so give them, and so lead your managers when you see them doing these behaviors. And I know middle managers a lot of the times are a lot of the problem, because many organizations promote people because they're good at their job, and then they give them zero leadership training, and then they put them in charge of 20 people. So they may not have the skills, so you might be having to give them that difficult feedback.
I smile at that, what you're just sharing about telling people what they need to know. Who's watched Office Space, right? I watched it with my boys a couple weeks ago, and it's been a number of years, and if you haven't watched it for a number of years, it is more true and relevant than ever. But no one ever told Milton that his job was over. No one told him he was fired, right? They just kept talking about him and moving him down the hall and then eventually into the basement. It's a thing. All right, what do we got here? Is this my turn or your turn? I don't remember. Connection. Understand the needs and behaviors of leader, empathy, and authenticity. Those are words that came up earlier. And we're going to actually move into something, and we're going to jump into it a little bit more. So one of the things we do with organizations is that we take the science and try to design it in a way that's digestible so that when we work with our clients, we work with our people, we help them understand human behavior and where things are breaking down. So this is our peak performance model. You know, we have it designed in two different ways for, people that like the visual stuff, or the words, right? So here's the gist of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of like a soapbox session right now where we're going to share some of our beliefs that really dovetail nicely with the stuff earlier today. so that you can use these tools in your organization. So this was designed, we built this because we consistently saw problems in the workplace. And what was happening, people were attributing the problems to the wrong thing. I hired JJ, and so this bottom section is about the employee I'm hiring. This is about JJ. So this is the them, me as leader. This is leader and management organization, and this is us. So I hired JJ at the chamber for his job. And when he applied, he had the relevant knowledge to do the work. He had the capability or capacity to do the work. And he was super motivated, right? Isn't this true for all of you when you start a new position? Like, the fact that you get the job means that you've met the minimums, right? Like, they've acknowledged that, and they're, you might have the attitude and aptitude, but they'll train you for some other specific stuff. But if this is true for us, why is it that we are so quick to blame people for being unmotivated or entitled or poor employees? We do this often. And part of this is because of what's going on here. So this is the leader platform here.
Before you even get to that,
Yeah.
also on this one, I think it's ego gets in the way, because many times we want to blame the employee instead of ourselves and our hiring practices.
Yeah.
Did we hire for fit? How did we hire them? How did we check it? Did we check their references? There's so many different things that can go wrong in the hiring process, and just keeping with this, we're actually horrible at it. Now there's more tools and data to make better hiring solutions, but nobody really wants to admit it was their fault. They made a bad hire. They only remember their gut and how great decisions they made with the great decisions. They don't remember the bad ones when your gut was wrong, right?
All those bad dates you went on, you moved them out of your head, remember? People talk about relying on your gut, and there's some science to support some gut interaction with heart, actually, and brain. But when my students start school, in my classes, I say, you check that gut at the door. Because gut actually becomes more accurate when what? When we get older. We transition out of what they call this fluid intelligence, where we're eager, motivated, curious, hungry, right? The majority of startups occur when you're 40 years and younger because of this type of fluid intelligence we have. And then it's not until after that that our intelligence and our capabilities, our skills, even touch changes as we move through our 40s, and we start to develop wisdom and this crystallized intelligence. We move into this more aged phase of our life where our value is no longer brand new ideation as much as it is synthesizing the great ideas that are coming up from the team. All right, so I want to talk about the middle real quick. So usually and like I said, we use this to troubleshoot performance issues. 9 times out of 10, the issue is not down here. It's here. And what happens is once we hire that person, we fail to give them the tools they need, information they need, and we fail to hold them accountable. For example, tools. Let's say that we have a big seamstress operation, and you all work for our company, and I bought, let's say there's 80 people in here right now, I bought 80 pairs of scissors. I didn't realize I bought 80 pairs of right-handed scissors, and 10 of you are lefties. No wonder your production is 40% less than the rest of the team, because it hurts, it's hard, it's difficult. So it's important that we have the right tools for the right job, right? Don't bring a hammer when the drill will do, right? Same concept, unless you have no other choice and you smack. You know what I mean? Like, we've all done that before. But the point is that you want the right tool for the position. You might need the right software for your organization so your people can be successful. All right? Information means, do they know what their job is? Do they have a job description? Is the job description current? Do we have expectations for each other? Right? We often set expectations for our people that work for us, but a lot of times we fail to give them the opportunity to create expectations of us. And if you want to flatten that power differential in your organization, Do 360-degree expectations. It'll be very helpful. Also, it depolarizes your organization, so it doesn't feel as contentious, and it boasts psychological safety. Accountability, you've heard that a couple times already. It makes me smile. It's one of the most important things because we don't hold people accountable. And when I bring us all together for a staff meeting and say, just a reminder, work starts at 8, not 8:15 or 8:30, and all of you are here on time, day in and day out, except for JJ, that's not holding him accountable. And I honestly don't know why he's late, so it'd probably be helpful to have that conversation. Maybe he needs to get kids to childcare. Well, that's really important information. But the other thing that's happening when I address you all together is I'm eroding my presence and my power and my leadership. And I start renorming this organization that they could cut corners because I won't hold you accountable for cutting those corners. I had a client, oh my gosh, they had deadlines for their people for this major national competition. They went into the guy the day before and said, where is it? We need all the data. And the guy's like, I haven't done it yet. So they just walked out, and the owners did all the work themselves, never had a conversation with the person that was supposed to be in charge of that, and got the data out the door. Now, what's happening with that employee? Well, first off, he knows that the leaders have no backbone. And now it also gives him permission on several different levels of consciousness of how he's going to move forward, maybe cut some corners, take a little longer lunch, do whatever, right? I came from the Midwest before I moved out here, so we had unions everywhere. And if you're familiar with a union environment, you've heard this before, that whoa, slow down. You're working too hard. We need you to slow down because you're making the rest of us look bad. Now, that's not uniform across all unions. I'm not generalizing that. But it's a phenomenon that exists that reduces our organization's efficacy. And it actually nurtures a specific type of culture that I don't think any of us want. We want to play hard, work hard, and then get out of here, right? Last one's culture. It's at the top. Culture is like the ice cap, and it touches everything down below. It's going to have a moderating effect on each of these items that it touches. And I could tell you in this category right here, as hard and difficult it is to have these difficult conversations, your positive culture, as I mentioned earlier, will see you through that rocky road, that difficult conversation. Because when I come in and say, Corey, we need to have a conversation, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not good with this, but I need to tell you something. I'm speaking from here. He knows that. He feels it. He gives me the benefit of the doubt. He gives me the space to share. He also knows it's difficult for me to share these things, so it must be super important. I used to do these workshop series, and we would refer to feedback equals love. It stings, though, doesn't it? In our household, we say you have 24 hours. Whether it's feedback or just some crummy event that happened in the workplace. I'll come home pissed off, and Angie's like, well, you got 24 hours, get over it, right? And we don't even have to say that to each other. We give each other a little bit of space, and we know. And we know, you wake up the next day. I gave someone some really difficult feedback because it's not in my nature many years ago, and he was angry, and he stomped out of the meeting. And a day or two later, he came back and said, I needed to hear that. We know when we're not living up to our potential. We know when we're cutting corners. So when that supervisor doesn't hold us accountable, or when you don't hold your people accountable, you're eroding their trust because they expect to be held accountable for making poor decisions or not doing the work to specs.
And feedback equals love is a concept that we talk about. We do workshops on it. We really try to get that to be a norm, a cultural norm in an organization where we offer each other feedback, be in love, and because we care about you. If we don't care about you, we talk about you, right? If you care about somebody, you're generally like, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I noticed that this isn't working out, or you're really off, or something, so that they can have an opportunity to change. So when we do that, we're actually showing love, even though it feels icky. I don't, when Rob, sometimes he'll come to me and like, you open to some feedback? I'm like, no, not right now. But give me a few minutes, let me collect my stuff, let me get into the mode. And then I'm like, lay it on me, because you just kind of sometimes got to brace yourself, because it's coming if somebody says, can I offer you some feedback? So then when we have a conversation, I know that he loves me and wants me to do a good job, or he doesn't want me to come off harsh to the kids, or he thinks my presentation could be better. He's offering me feedback because he cares about me. And so are our bosses, and so are the people that love us. They are telling us because they want us to be better. But what is the instant reaction to most people getting feedback? Defensiveness. So this is where the breath comes in. This is where that breath and that emotional intelligence comes in, where you're like, thank you. That's all you need to say. Instead of, but I was just, or I was thinking, nobody cares. Just thank you. Thank you. Go think about it. Let your emotions come down. Get your epinephrine and your cortisol levels back to baseline. Get in a state of flow, and then see how that feedback feels. It only hurts because you just got into fight or flight, and you're hijacked. And so that's when you tear people's head off. That's when you snap.
Say things you regret.
You say things you regret. You're hurtful. You're ugly. Hurt people. Have you heard that? So don't respond in that moment. Just say thank you. And then you don't have to believe all of it, but you need to figure out what part's true. And you need to check with some of the people in your circle of trust what's true about that. Because they're only offering it to you as a gift. Right?
Yeah. Anyone curious why there's a car in the motivation category?
Drive you.
I'll talk about it in a minute.
Drive, fuel. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, that is a does not equal sign. Let's be clear. Being motivated does not mean you're performing. Having the energy to show up does not mean you're doing the right work or the good work. So we're getting subtle here. We're getting nuanced. Anything you want to add on this, Ange?
I think that people often confuse those two things. They think they're not motivated, or maybe they're super motivated, but they're not doing a good job. So it's like, what's wrong then? If they're motivated, how come they're not doing a good job? Or vice versa. They're doing a really great job, but they're kind of a,
So there's a point in organizations we see an employee morale dip and exit. And what happens is if this is motivation here and this is time, their motivation starts really high and then it starts to diminish before it goes up. And that dip is often tied with a lack of competence in the organization. And so just because we hire people, because I believe everyone starts a job motivated. There are some outliers. But everyone starts a job motivated. Everyone here has, I believe that, right? But it doesn't mean you're ready for the tasks. It means you might need some hand-holding, some micromanagement. We have such aversion to the concept of micromanagement. There is a good type of micromanagement for the right time, for the right task, for the certain people. We need to use it to get people to that energy level will only dip quickly, and then competence will drive that motivation up. Because that dip is super dangerous. And think about it. 4 to 6 months into any job, how'd you feel? Day one, you're like, I'm so excited, I'm going to make them proud, I'm going to do a good job. 4 months in, it's kind of like week 3 when you go to college as a freshman. You're like, all of a sudden I'm homesick, all the parties are over, all these things. This is where we lose people because they're not able to persevere in that organization without effective, impactful leadership. And I see this happen with executives all the time. They'll bring in someone with the highest degrees, highest experiences, put them in a position and cut them loose and say, you run this team. But they don't share the vision. Or they don't, to have the vision is one thing. To articulate what it looks like and how it plays out is different. And then to specify how this team or this division factors into that is extremely important. So I'm going to share this other model with you. So We talk about motivation often, and we typically say, how do you motivate other people? And I'll tell you right now, you can't motivate other people. Motivation is an internal aspect that you could cultivate the environment and the experiences that can drive their motivation higher, but you can't just motivate people. We've tried that. Carrots and sticks. Carrot's the reward, stick is the consequence, right? Externalized rewards are not sustainable, and they actually are tied to demotivation levels. So thinking that you could drive people's performance through pay or through incentive is only the short game. And when I say externalized, that means anything happening outside of this space on my body. Angie mentioned feedback earlier. I cringe when I hear the word feedback. Not feedback, sorry. Recognition. I cringe when I hear the word recognition. Because recognition is an external mechanism that people tie to motivation. And in many instances, people want recognition, and they say they want recognition because they don't have the language to truly articulate what's missing in that work experience. In fact, recognition is a significant reflection of a lack of psychological safety. I don't know what I'm experiencing, but I just know I need to feel valued more. Well, I'm telling you I need rewards or pizza parties, but that's actually because my supervisor comes down hard on me, doesn't, depolarize the power differential, doesn't meet me part way. So be careful with both externalized rewards as well as recognition. So what we have here is car, like the image on the screen. So there's three nutriments, there's three basic fundamental needs, psychological needs, that fuels optimal levels of motivation. C, competence. Can you do the job well, consistently? A, autonomy. Do I have independence and free will over my work and my space? R, relatedness. Do I have connection? Now, if we look at this in the work environment, it's kind of tricky because, as Angie mentioned, relatedness kind of ebbs and flows. And one day I might not need to go to the staff happy hour, but 2 weeks later, I really needed the invite that never came to my desk. Relatedness is really fluid. Competence and autonomy, that's different. Micromanagement, often we're diminishing people's level of autonomy, and so that can lead to dysfunction. So when we have people that aren't performing well or their motivation's low, it's usually there's an imbalance here. And one of these dropping, one of these missing, erodes our performance. And that's at home and at work. So I have a client that calls me and says, I don't know what to do with Gloria. She's not doing her job right anymore. I'm like, well, did you check her car? Well, let's go through this. Competence. Is she competent? Well, she was. She'd been doing it perfect for 2 years, but she's not anymore. Okay. Autonomy. Does she have autonomy? Is someone breathing down her neck, micromanaging her? Nope. She still has the same freedoms. Relatedness. Does she have relatedness in that job? Yep, she seems to do well with the ladies and the men at this area. So then I say, so what's going on with her home life? Did you check her car at home? This is an executive that says, it's none of my business. I don't talk to my staff about home life. I don't go for lunches with them. I don't do happy hours with them. That's separate from work. I said, well, that's one opinion, right? Because as we acknowledged already, if you're working 8 hours a day at work, how many hours are you awake at home in the evening with family? So these people are giving you their lives to your organization. The least you can do is care. It doesn't mean meddle and pry. All it means is, Ange, if you have any questions, something's going on, just let me know. My door's always open. And that door, my client opened that door, and she walked right in. And what did we learn? She had no competence at home, she had no autonomy at home, and she had no relatedness. Her 19-year-old daughter was pregnant, she was at odds with her husband, and her mother-in-law was moving in, all at the same time.
That's a hat trick.
Hat trick, she got the hat trick. Do you not blame that following into the workplace? So they're not separate. So we look at those as it relates to motivation. We're running tight on time. So what's happening here, I'll just give you a quick crash course. We have extrinsic and intrinsic, and that's typically our vocabulary as it relates to motivation. But the research shows that there's several more variations in between. And what we've done is we have identified it this way. This is aligned and that's imposed. Being the best parents we try to be, we're often operating in this imposed section with our children. Don't do that. Don't cut your hair like that. Don't color your hair like that. Don't dress like that. Don't hang out with those friends. You better go to college, not for art, but for law. And why do we do this? And we offer advice to our friends too. Advice has a direct relationship to demotivation. We do it because we're loving and we care. I don't want my boys to go through the same crap I went through, but I can't tell them that way. I can't impose it on them. It's the same thing in the work environment. I can't impose it on you that you need to do this. My goal, so everything to the left is extrinsic or externalized motivation.
And a lot of it's based in fear, like he said, carrots and sticks.
Yeah.
Money pays for performance, all the things that are outside. And fear is generally one of the motivators.
So this is more internalized, or it's called autonomous motivation regulation. Fancy, huh? I'll stick with intrinsic. But the point here is that this is optimal motivation levels. This is you working for your passion and purpose. That's what fuels you. It says aligned up there. I know you can't see it. The idea here is that if I need Angie to do a task, or I need my son to do a task, I just don't tell Angie she needs to do this. Or I don't tell Ian he needs to do this. I have a conversation with them, and I cultivate the decision-making process with them so that they begin to align or understand why what I'm asking is important. And then it eventually feeds into intrinsic levels of motivation. I know it's a lot, it's heavy. We don't understand motivation well, so we don't manage it well in workplaces. And so the more we learn about it, the better we're going to be at empowering people and supporting people. And getting the best out of our people. That's all we want, right? Getting the best experience possible. We can't pay them a ton, but boy, we can love them and support them and champion them. So we have this other model, culture by design, and yeah, go ahead. And it's just a flow chart. Angie, you want to talk about staffing real quick? We have 5 minutes.
Okay, so we were talking a little earlier about how poor we are at selection and hiring, and so that's one of the things that we can do to improve our processes. You can use some assessments. You can figure out different and new ways to attract the right talent, your reputation, and everything else that goes along with that. And then when we do get the people on, we really need a robust onboarding system so that they know what their role is, they understand what they need to be doing, what a good job looks like, and so that they're not just, so that they get past that little dip where they're deciding if they made a right choice to work for you. They get the actual skills so that they can be successful and they have the skills to do the job. And that's where we miss out. A lot of times we, as leaders, don't do a good job at this, and then we blame the staff.
So we have 3 different types of clients traditionally. People that come in and say, we need training, which I often say you probably don't need training, you probably need something else, but let's have a conversation and see what you want and what you need, and we'll give you what you need and want. So sometimes it's just training, sometimes it's other initiatives. We have other clients that are culture rich, and they want us to help enhance. Mm-hmm. How do we continue to add value? How do we continue to cultivate these things? We bring people on retreats. We facilitate, out of town, all over the place. We have a place in Dominican Republic that we're looking at bringing a team in the next year. We want to bring the enhancement and the culture up. The third group we work with are shit shows, essentially, that they're like, I don't know what's going on, but I know I need help.
Bad.
And those are my favorite. It's like I get to play with Legos and build something there. But the enhancement piece is key, right? So a lot of you have the culture pieces going on. Mm-hmm. Keep at it. Keep adding the development, the mentoring, the coaching. This is going to instill and reinvest in that group to embody what it is you want them to embody.
How many of you have had a coach, out of curiosity? Outside of work or inside of work? Okay, we need to get that number up. You can't see your blind spots, right? Coaches help you see your blind spots.
You want to talk about capacity building real quick?
Capacity building, well, so succession planning, one of the things that we're not doing very well is meeting people where they are as far as the end of their retirement. Rob was talking about crystallized intelligence, which is when we have wisdom and our ability and a better ability to coach and develop people. So as people are retiring, one of the things that we can do is utilize the skills and the talents that those people have, and maybe just incorporate them into building our teams and bringing those younger people up. So maybe they don't want to completely quit the workforce. Maybe they want to just add value and develop people, and also have a flexible schedule where they get to take the time off that they want, but they're really only showing up because they love it and they love to develop people and they have that wisdom. So we can utilize some of these people in the second phase of life to come in and continue to grow that organization, because every leader can't be doing it all. But there's people who love it, who love to develop others. And you know there's people in your organization, if they weren't there, some of your other employees would have quit. And those are the people you have to identify and figure out, they're so awesome, I don't want to lose them, and how could I use them? Even if they leave here, maybe they're not retiring, maybe they just need to work at a place that can pay them more or give them some more value, but maybe you can utilize them for just 10 hours a week or 8 hours a week, some of the skills to bring them back into that workplace, because if you know they have value, they want to share that. Anything else?
Well, you nailed both of them. So, basically what you said is exactly it. When you give your notice, the next day you're gone, essentially, to that organization. You ever notice that? Work carries on without you. When you die, work carries on. I know it stings and it hurts and it sounds horrible, but people might miss you briefly, but work carries on, right? So let's be purposeful with especially our key people that are leaving our organization, especially those retirees, and figure out how can we leverage what they offer to continue to reinvest and grow this organization. Because we know that people that go from working full-time, high volume to retiring and nothing die quickly. We know it. It's in the science. So how can we keep these people that are truly valuable involved to help us build that organization we want to build? We're wrapping it up here.
Enthusiasm does not, that's a not equal.
Yeah, another not equal.
Does not equal competence. So just because I come to the job enthusiastic to do it does not mean I'm competent at some of the tasks. Let's just say you hired me and I'm an accountant, and all of a sudden you bring me, and I've worked in banking industry, you bring me in to your team, I've got an accounting degree, I've done a lot of accounting, but I'm now working for your nonprofit organization. I still don't have the competence for this job yet. Even though I'm enthusiastic, I still need to learn your culture. I still need to learn your software. I still need to learn your nonprofit tax rules. So just because you are competent in one area doesn't mean you're competent in this new organization. And organizations forget this all the time. It's like, or, hey, they got a master's degree. This is one thing I really did hear the other day. They got a master's degree. They can figure it out.
And so no one on the staff is offering this woman assistance. No coaching, no peer support, nothing.
That's a toxic culture. But these are the things we get to see, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to fix that, right? So that person might come in with skills and expertise, but your organization has to onboard them and help them to be successful so they get past that curve and they build the capacity to do the job consistently well. And once they get to that, then they're going to start to soar. When the competence comes up, the motivation comes up, and that's when you start to fly.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. So our 4 pillars, here we go again: consistency, accountability, safety, and connection. Those are present in toxic cultures also, right? Don't forget, there's those 4 nutriments. And the 4th nutriment, we didn't use this word a whole lot today, but we spoke to it consistently. You want to be an impactful leader, you want to cultivate a culture of love, support, respect, you need to start with yourself showing up and being a bit vulnerable. It's not crying in the boardroom or being sappy and pathetic, right? But it's disarming yourself and letting people meet each other part way. So this is it for us. Thank you. We have, I know we're going to hear footsteps in a minute. What I want to do real quick, I have 3 questions up here. Something you've learned, something that surprised you, something you're committed to.
From the whole day. It doesn't have to be from just our presentation.
Give it a consideration real quick. And when you're ready, shout that out. 1 thing, 2 things. What's been impactful for you today? This has been a huge day, and we know that because we've been sitting waiting since Luke started for all the presentations to come through, right? And so it's been a long day, and at least we get to walk around. You have the worst job, sitting all day. I get it, it's hard. But when you're ready, let's take 2 minutes. Something you learned, something you're surprised by, something you're committing to now.
Listen more.
Take a breath, listening more. Bringing energy. Consistency, keep going.
Feedback equals love.
Feedback equals love. Showing up fully.
Be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable. It's kind of like be aggressive, right? Be aggressive.
That was good.
Any others? Any finals?
You matter.
All of these things are important. As I started, building a culture is not difficult. It just takes a lot of time and commitment to it. And the coolest part, when I heard the women earlier talking about their core values, the cool thing about these desired cultures, these best cultures, they all come back to love, compassion, vulnerability, support. The things that we all want more of in our lives, whether that's at home or in the workplace. So we thank you for your time. We thank you for your patience. We look forward to joining you across the street and visiting to get to know you more. I'm going to put up the next slide. It has our contact information on there. If you need anything, Black River, and then there's a pnm.com. Please visit our website. We just redeployed it during the first quarter. If you're actually interested in some of the stuff we talk about, there's a library topics page on there. There's over 40 topics that are all research backed that we talk to organizations about. Not suggesting that you want to talk to us about that, but you're just curious about, hey, who are these people? Yeah. And there's our emails. And don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air.
Guys, I am emotional. I have been trying to hold back tears all day long. I want to take a moment to congratulate you for being here the whole day. Like, you made it. It's a long day for a lot of us. I was up at 3 a.m. I've been up since 3 a.m. and I am still at a 10. I am so amped up. It's incredible. And we still have the after party to go to. So I learned a lot today. We talked a lot about self-care, and this is my self-care. This fills me up. Seeing these speakers pour into us, seeing the speakers pour into you, seeing the ripple effects that this has on the community I live in could not make me happier. I am so pleased that you all took part in this with me. How many of you know someone that should have been here today? Do me a favor and tell them to be here next year, right? Because we need to fill this place up. I want people up in the balcony. I want it shaking. I want Jared yelling at me that there's too much movement up there. You know, I want to fill this place up. I believe everybody has something to learn. You know, I'm going to bring Alex out for a minute. I don't have a lot else to say. Thank you.
We've got a lot of stuff that's probably just been saturated in your brains. I'm sure you're tired. I'm sure that you're a little bit sleepy. And I'm also not positive if my battery pack on my microphone's died because it's been on since 6:30 this morning. So I'm going to use my big voice. Actually, can I just use the microphone so I don't have to yell? All right. I'm going to hand it back. That way I don't have to yell for the next 30 seconds. Couple things we need you to know about before you leave. First and foremost, you got a ton of information today, and a lot of it could be transformative both to you and your teams. If you registered today, within the next 5 days, there is this special pricing. It is $200. If you use this, you can take out your phones. I'm going to show you how to do it on my iPad. That way your eyes, no matter how far away you are, you can see this, all right? I'm going to be that guy that everyone like shames when they see them, like, is he really using his iPad? Okay, so you take your phone out. You stare at the thing. You tap thing. It takes you to the registration, which it will load. But I'm on Wi-Fi from Koto because I stole it instead of actually just getting our Wi-Fi. Anyway, while that loads, you can register. Here's the thing. It is $200. This is the cheapest the price will ever get. I've talked with all the founders. I know this for a fact. There will not be a special deal that will be cheaper than this. Secondly, if you register within the next 5 days using this link, you will get this year's conference on video. I can speak firsthand to the quality of the work that Reinhard Media produces. You are going to get this in a way, in a format that your entire team can digest. They will be intrigued, entertained, and they will stay focused because there is so much good content. You don't want to keep it for yourself. You want to spread it with your team. The second thing is you also want to digest this again. When I take a lot of information in on one day, I will go back and reread my notes. This is a great tool to add to that kit. Make sure you purchase it today. You'll get all of this year's content. You can go through your notes. You can re-listen to something that you loved. Maybe when you get back, you have those moments where you're like, man, guys, I went to this conference. I heard this great thing. I can't really say it as well as they did. And it was something to this extent. No, now you know what it was. Now you can literally show them what it was, and it'll change their life. Okay? You awake? Okay, last thing to do before we leave. We're going to go to Twin Beans, and I want to challenge you to go because you could right now check out. You could sit down, you could go home, you could be tired, and you could disengage. Or you can check in, meet some people, have a great night, and you can get all this information out, talk with people, meet people. I believe we have a special beer even. We have our very own, the Summit Citrus beer that was brewed for us specifically by Milners. How many parties get their own beer made for it? Come on. That's crazy. So I encourage you guys, come out, have a great time with us. Carrie, send us off.
Bye.